Good afternoon, everyone. How are you all doing today?
Good, how are you? Good.
That's good. Are y'all excited to be here?
Yes.
That's good. Anybody have the first trade show experience? Is this their first time?
First time at Pi.
Okay, cool. This is also my first time at Pi.
Yeah,
Oh,
first
no, it's
time.
your second, sorry.
This is my second, yeah.
Oh, the second, and then your first time?
About 300 for me.
Oh, about 300?
Seasoned veteran up there.
Gotcha. Yeah, so I see we have some newcomers here. We also have people that may have been to trade shows 300 times, so just welcome everyone. But what I wanted to do today, I wanted to start with the icebreaker, just having the audience interact a little bit, and I wanted to kind of come up with a decision here. So I want to settle something. Who do you feel like has it worse? Those desperately hunting for a parking spot, or folks trying to enforce the rules? So today we'll take a deeper dive into an ultimate parking tug of war. We'll go ahead and do some icebreakers, just think about some fun facts. I want to hear about your parking horror story nightmares, and also we'll have a fireside chat to conclude, and also have Q&A for the audience. Does that sound good?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm very interactive, so if I ask a question and I don't hear anybody, don't be afraid, because I might come up to you and ask you to answer it for me. So what I wanted to just start off with today is just the icebreaker. So it's a question that, most parking industry professionals may know, but I wanted to ask you all, how many hours does the average person waste looking for parking annually? Does anybody know?
24.
What did they say, like 100 hours?
Okay, we got 24, 100 hours. Anybody else? No other takers?
Me, 0. I use Spot Hero.
Okay.
12.
12, okay. So we got 12, 24, and 100. Any more takers?
I'm just looking at this 60.
60? Okay. The answer is actually 17 hours. So I think someone said 16, so they were pretty close. So the average person, they take about 17 hours a year just searching for parking. So that could be your favorite movie, that could be a nice jog. Just all the time you could have spent in 17 hours, it goes to parking. So that's something to be mindful of as you're traveling as a commuter, and also if you're working as a parking administrator as well. How can you decrease that time with your solutions? Next, I want to ask you a question about, the most ridiculous excuse you heard for illegal parking. Has anybody had to ever deal with illegal parking operations, or somebody wanted to dispute a ticket?
Can you provide an example?
Yeah, let's say maybe you're working with university administration, or let's say that somebody is wanting to get their parking validated, but they might have a crash on the system, and then they're talking about, oh, I can't get my parking validated because this reason here. I didn't see the signage to like scan the QR code and maybe like get my parking validated. So I was wondering if there were anybody in the university administration audience, or like municipalities that, have just dealt with several complaints. So if anybody has a story to share, if anybody also was somebody that illegally parked, I don't mind hearing that as well.
I mean, I've gotten a lot of Chicago parking tickets.
Me too.
Oh, can you tell me about that?
I've been ticketed a few times. I went to a beauty school off of Milwaukee in Chicago, and got ticketed for being within 6 feet of a crosswalk. But I looked up the stats, and it was like, if your vehicle is higher than 6 feet and X amount of length, then you get the ticket. So I kept parking in this illegal spot, fighting that ticket like
Oh my gosh.
4 times a week. With it. But as a parking operator, I ran a location that we offered validation for guests, right? Like, you go to the laundromat, you get your parking validated. You go to the restaurant, you get your parking validated. Well, all the employees abused the validation, and they would just pull tickets and validate and come in and out and in and out and in and out.
Gotcha.
So we weren't allowing that, because you gotta pay for the validation. If you're an employee of the building, you should be paying for a monthly spot, XYZ. So I sat there and filmed my location 4 days in a row, and grabbed the license plates, how many times they came and went, and then They also would like rip the wood gate arm off. Maybe like it fell off. So like started recording more and more at this location, and it was such a big loser for us. And then yeah, I did that for a few months, and we ended up starting making some money.
Gotcha.
But yeah, they were like, "Why can't I use this? I'm just validating my parking."
Mhm.
Like, you're not a customer. But yeah, that was probably one of my biggest headache locations.
Gotcha. No, thank you for sharing that story. I really appreciate that. Does anybody have any other stories that they want to share? Okay, cool. I'll go ahead and move to the next parking question that I have here. If you could change, do you mind, I don't know why that light keeps going out. But if you could change one thing about parking overnight, what would it be? How would you enhance your current solution that you have if you were the game changer and shaker in the room? Some of you may already be that. What would you like to implement in order to improve your parking operations? And it might help if you all could say what business you're in, like who are you with, your name, and how you plan to just improve overall mobility and just improve your traffic operations. And we'll pause a little bit. I see we're getting a little intimate in here today. There we go.
Parking after dark.
Right. But yeah, if there is anything you could change. Oh, okay.
I don't want to be the only one to talk. I would say building accessibility.
Mm-hmm.
So many.
And do you mind saying your name?
Yeah,
and
sorry. I'm Shelly Andrews. I work with Spot Hero.
Okay.
And a lot of our customers run into issues accessing the location after hours, whether that's midnight through 6 a.m., whatever it might be. So I would just say easeability for pedestrian access would be a great solution to ease the overnight parking.
Gotcha. Okay. Accessibility for pedestrian access. Thank you. Any other takers? How would you improve mobility?
Well, I don't want you to hang out there all on your own. So I'm a consultant, so I make things better by design. That's what we do, is we just provide solutions. So,
Gotcha.
Thank you. And I have a degree in broadcasting, so here we are, ladies. I'm kidding. I'm not kidding, from the University of Oklahoma.
Okay.
But John Oglesby, I'm the CEO and founder of Parking Whisperer.
Okay.
And so what we do is we go into an environment and make things better. We have to provide, this is the first group that's okay to talk about what you do versus Kevin's prenup out there. I like that. So the thing I find the most common that's helpful is to simply get someone that is willing to look at things with a fresh eye. And you're grinding on my teeth every time you say spot, by the way, because dogs have spots. We're talking about parking spaces. So
I hear you.
no chuckling here. Okay, fine. It's a tough run. You're doing great. So in most instances, what I have found, and accessibility is an absolutely great topic to talk about this, because there are very few people or organizations that do more than the absolute bare minimum, which was mandated by the Americans with Disabilities Act all the way back in 1988. And yes, I was in the parking business then, if you can believe that.
Oh man.
So the greatest success we have is to ask somebody basically take off their operator views or their owner's views and look as if you were the person that is entering the facility for the first time. It just depends upon the different environments, but accessibility is absolutely true, because there are, and I ran the city and county of Denver for a couple of years as well, so I got some great stories, and I towed Donald Trump's limo at opening day at Citi Field in New York, so I can tell you a bunch of other good things, but just by looking at it as if you're the driver and you've not been there before, it's embarrassing almost how much opportunity there is to make things better. I was in a location just yesterday, and I'm looking around, and it's a large footprint, and there's not a single sign anywhere that says where the elevators are.
Right.
And there are other places where it says there are elevators, but they aren't, because they've saved 10 cents by buying the same sign and replicating it X number of times and not putting the one near the elevator different verbiage from the one away from the elevator. Lighting levels, all these sorts of things. It's really not hard to improve the operations if you just take the time to do that. And Spot Hero is an excellent program founded right here in Chicago many, many years ago. And it really fulfilled a need at the time, and they've done a good job modifying and adapting what they're doing to get into today's marketplace. But I would just encourage anybody that that has a bad experience, find a way to share what that experience is, right? We live in the land of Google, and now we have AI, so everything's going to be super easy now. But it's not hard to find out who the operator is or who the owner is, because there's not an attendant in the booth 95% of the time now. So, you know, if you have a bad parking experience, odds are pretty good the owner or the operator does care, would like to improve it. They're just not aware of what that problem is.
No, thank you. That was great. Anybody else want to add? Go ahead.
Hello, everyone. My name's Robert. I am with Spot Hero.
Great name.
The team right here. Another Robert. There we go. So mine isn't necessarily a solution. As I am new to the industry, I would be looking at the professionals in the room to maybe see, you know, what a good solution would be. However, being in client management, part of my job is gathering feedback from customers, not operators, customers directly, saying what did well a lot and what did poorly. And one of the major feedbacks that I've received, which I thought was interesting, is long exit times. So my question to the room is, you know, what would be a good solution to help kind of overcome the long exit times that some clients face? Probably, you know, presumably in an event space where there's high traffic, so I do understand that there's some obstacles that can't be avoided. But yeah, that's my question to the group.
I can answer that.
Please, I'm MC over here as well.
I'll sit up there with you guys.
You're more than welcome.
I'm Wes with TIBA Parking Systems, subsidiary of FAAC Parking Solutions. Some of the best ways to get around those long egress times, there's a few methods of attacking that. You can have, if you have a gated system, for example, on your entry devices, you have a pay on entry credit card reader with a predefined rate, where you pay on the entry, tie that with an LPR camera, so that when they go to leave, the license plate is recognized and immediately vents the gate within seconds of them leaving. The next available method is pre-booking your stay, either through someone like Spot Hero or TIBA has a in-house self-service model that provides pre-booking, credit card on file, and monthly subscriptions, all of which you can attach a license plate to. So if you pre-booked and you have your license plate entered at the pre-booking, you're simply going to enter with your license plate being recognized, or with a QR code back up if for some reason your license plate isn't read. And the same on the exit, you should be entering and leaving within seconds. And with a credit card on file, similar thing, the only difference being that you're just going to be charged exactly for the duration of your stay and sent invoice in your email later. The key is with the operator, making this process easy and available to the end user, so that you have a high adoption rate of all these options. And the more that you're able to get these people adopted and get the message out, then the faster your event and egress is going to go.
Thank you.
That was great. Anyone else? Oh, okay.
I think the biggest problem with that, and most of you probably run into event parking, right? You have a concert ends, you have 600 people trying to leave at the same time, even if they all pay ahead of time. You can't just drive into a street, right? You can stop, look right, look left. If you got grandma driving, you got a problem there. Anything you can do to educate that parker ahead of time, know everybody leaves at the same time. Sometimes it can take a while to get out of the garage, stay extra, have an extra drink, have a meal, do whatever, get them to stay longer. And that way they understand, like, oh, parking's gonna be, either they leave early, which is fine, or they stay like one of the two, but just letting them know. I know, I think it was this conference a couple of years ago, and there was a municipality who had that issue. They owned a garage, and they had parking arms, and they said every time they had the summertime concert, the police got 911 calls saying they were trapped inside the parking garage because they've been in there for like 35 minutes and couldn't get out. It was a huge issue, and a lot of it, they did some things. They actually got rid of their parking arms, which made a big difference, but some of it was just education that when they park, hey, you're gonna be in an event, realize when the event's over, it can take a while. Take your time, to get back to your car, enjoy the show, watch the credits, whatever that is.
I can add to that, actually.
And I have a follow-up.
Depending
Come on, guys, I love it.
Depending on the solution, you can have the push notifications, or if the person who signed up has a phone number and they've opted into communications, then you can, as an operator, get that specific messaging out
Yeah.
to try and control that in advance. So that's a very great point.
And we have one more point in the back.
Mr. Beth, you go.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, you actually answered that. You got in front of all that. Thank you.
Okay. Well, I really appreciate y'all's insight. I like to have an interactive session, and I do things kind of unorthodox. So I'm glad that we got to hear about where you all are from and the solutions that you feel you will bring to the table, or the existing solutions that are already here. So I want to ask one last question. Who feels like they have been in the parking industry the longest? I'd like to hear how many years you've been in the parking industry, and if anybody can beat that.
I mean, you've been to 300 shows.
300 shows? I also want to.
13 years.
13 years?
Certainly not the longest in here, though.
Gotcha. 13 years. Anybody beating 13? 14. Okay. We got 14. Anybody more than 14?
Well, on December the 16th, it'll be 40 years for me.
Oh, wow. Okay. Man.
I think we have our winner.
Right. Well, man, that is so great. I thank y'all for allowing us to break the ice. We are now going to switch gears. Right now, I have with me Ryan Manion. So, what I want to let you all know that Ryan is an expert in parking, mobility, and technology. Ryan, I want to welcome you to the battleground.
Thank you, Robert. It's a pleasure to be here.
So, Ryan, you've been at the crossroads of technology and mobility for years. What pulled you into the parking industry, and what excites you the most about leading Orbility's expansion?
Absolutely. So in 2010, I moved to Silicon Valley to immerse myself in US technology scene. And that's where I was introduced to the parking industry through a smart parking company. And what pulled me in was the realization that parking technology isn't just about transactions. It's about shaping the way cities, universities, and businesses operate for years to come. And I was drawn into the intersection of reliability, innovation, and long-term impact. And what excites me the most about leading Orbility's expansion is the scale of opportunity. With a presence in 26 countries and over 4,000 parking environments worldwide, Orbility has a proven legacy. Now in the US, we're writing a new chapter, one focused on building strategic partnerships and redefining what seamless, intelligent parking solutions look like. And this year is a turning point for Orbility. We're launching groundbreaking new products that will shape the industry for the next decade. The challenge of leading this expansion, building a brand, forging relationships, and driving real-time change is what motivates me every day. It's an exciting time not just for Orbility, but for the entire parking technology landscape.
No, that's great to hear. So you talked about just, leaving that imprint, and, you also talked about wanting to expand into the Americas as well. What I want to know more about is, the leadership. You talked about how Orbility is a leader in parking and access revenue control. What is one thing people most misunderstand about the parking technology?
Absolutely. One of the biggest misconceptions, in my opinion, about parking technology is just how complex it is behind the scenes. For your average user, it feels simple. You take a ticket, pay, and leave. How tough can it be?
Right.
But in reality, the technology that powers modern parking systems is incredibly sophisticated. On the software side, the system has to calculate parking fees dynamically based on time of day of week, and down to 15-minute increments. It needs to accurately read and record license plates in real time with no human intervention. Plus, everything must be connected for payments and analytics while still functioning seamlessly if the internet goes down. And that's just the software. On the hardware side, parking systems involve a wide range of components: cabling, modems, cameras, microphones, and more. Implementing a system requires careful planning, multiple site walks, and extensive coordination across all teams. So while the experience feels effortless for the end user, a tremendous amount of planning and technology goes into making it that way.
And you talked about the effortless planning and how you had implemented a few systems into place. I want to talk about the shift into frictionless and contactless parking. how is Orbility modernizing the industry?
Absolutely. Orbility is modernizing the industry through continuous innovation, and our latest product, Nova, is a game changer. From a technology standpoint to the total delivered cost, Nova is designed to maximize ROI, streamline operations, and set a new standard for parking access and revenue control.
So with Nova, I assume that it has data analytics and additional pieces, and I'm wondering about data being the new oil. I figure it's the new oil, right? From occupancy tracking to payment optimization. How is Orbility using analytics to improve efficiency along with revenue?
Absolutely. And Robert, data is the new oil. And at Orbility, we're harnessing its power to drive efficiency and maximize revenue for parking operators. Our parking management system has long provided robust reporting capabilities, but we're taking it to the next level with the upcoming release of our e-analytics platform. By moving reports to the cloud and integrating a powerful analytics engine means parking managers can quickly identify revenue opportunities and make data-driven decisions with ease. Real-time data access is also unlocking new capabilities such as live occupancy management and dynamic pricing. With dynamic pricing, parking facilities can adjust rates in response to demand, optimizing revenue while maximizing space utilization. At the core of these advancements is our commitment to flexibility and ease of administration, ensuring that operators can leverage powerful analytics without added complexity.
You know, you talked about e-analytics, dynamic pricing, like innovative features that are, becoming more prominent in the parking industry. Legacy infrastructure can slow the tech adoption. So I'm wondering what's some of the toughest challenges you have in getting cities and private operators to modernize into, dynamic pricing, for example.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say, in my opinion, the biggest challenge is overcoming the fear of the unknown, particularly the shift from hardware-based to software-driven systems.
Right.
Many cities and private operators have relied on legacy infrastructure for decades, systems filled with moving mechanical parts that require constant hands-on maintenance. Their teams are accustomed to being part-time engineers, troubleshooting and repairing equipment as part of daily operations. Transitioning to software-driven systems can feel intimidating because it shifts the focus from physical upkeep to digital management. Change is always daunting, especially when challenges long-standing routines. However, once these teams experience the benefits, greater efficiency, reduced maintenance, and real-time insights, they quickly embrace modernization.
No, that's perfect. And earlier you talked about how, you're an international company, but you're making your footprint in North America. And we all know North America is a unique beast. So different regulations, operators, and consumer expectations. How is Orbility tackling growth across these diverse markets?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, North America is indeed a unique beast. And at Orbility, our focus starts with our customers. With over 50 years of experience, we know that success comes from delivering reliable, tailored solutions that meet specific operational needs on time and with the right functionality. Given the diversity of North America, each region presenting its own challenges and opportunities, we take a strategic, data-driven approach to growth. Rather than applying a one-size-fits-all model, we analyze each opportunity individually, ensuring that our solutions not only meet current demands, but also drive long-term success for our customers. Our goal isn't just to expand, it's to make a long-lasting positive impact on the industry, one successful partnership at a time.
I love that piece that you talked about with partnerships and also being customer focused. I want to ask you about, operations. Many operators, sometimes they might hesitate to adopt new tech due to the cost and complexity. If it's not broken, why fix it? But what I want to know more about is how does Orbility convince them that the upgrade and different insights, analytics, Nova, how is that worth it?
Absolutely. Cost and complexity are common concerns when adopting new technology, which is why Orbility focuses on making the investment as seamless and worthwhile as possible. Beyond demonstrating the tangible value and ROI, we provide flexible funding options to fit different financial needs. Operators can choose from traditional CapEx procurement, leasing options, or even subscription-based as-a-service models known as Spark. This means that even if an operator doesn't have immediate budget availability, they can spread costs over time in a way that works best for them. In many cases, they start generating revenue from their investment before they even begin making payments. Our goal is to remove barriers to adoption, ensuring that operators can modernize their systems without financial strain, while reaping the benefits of efficiency, improved customer experience, and increased revenue.
Gotcha. And you know, with smart cities on the rise, parking is becoming a crucial piece in urban mobility. How do you see parks and other parking tech integrating into smart city infrastructure?
Yeah, so smart cities are redefining urban mobility, and parking technology plays a critical role in that transformation. Looking at our operations in Europe and the UK, we see a clear trend towards integrated urban mobility hubs, a model that is now making its way into the US. At some of our sites, traditional parking facilities have evolved into multifunctional hubs. Customers park their cars or vehicles using our advanced parks equipment, and once inside, they can seamlessly access additional smart mobility services. For example, EV charging costs can be integrated directly into their parking ticket for a single frictionless payment. Our system can also facilitate pedestrian access to other levels, where electric bicycles or scooters are available for onward travel. We're also pioneering dynamic pricing based on vehicle emissions, helping cities establish and enforce low emission zones that support sustainability goals. At Orbility, our committed to shaping the future of smart transportation. As cities evolve, we're ready to be a trusted partner in delivering innovative solutions that enhance urban mobility.
That's good. And you know, you mentioned briefly EV. I want to talk about the EV adoption. You know, EV adoption is growing and parking facilities are key to expanding charging infrastructure. What role do you see parking operators playing in that EV ecosystem?
Absolutely. So parking operators are essential to the growth of the EV ecosystem, as their garages and lots are prime locations for expanding charging infrastructure. Traditionally, many operators have taken a passive role, simply leasing spaces to third-party EV charging companies. However, we're now seeing a major shift in strategy where operators becoming more actively involved in supporting and promoting EV adoption. As operators take a more hands-on approach, they're not only enhancing the EV experience for drivers, but also creating new revenue opportunities that further drive investment in sustainable mobility. This active buy-in from parking operators is a key factor in accelerating the EV ecosystem's growth.
Gotcha. Man, those are some great insights. And Ryan, I appreciate this conversation. And I know the audience may have some questions for you. So before we open it up, let me ask you this. If you could wave a magic wand and solve one major challenge in the parking industry, what would that be?
That's a great question. If I could wave a magic wand, I'd focus on scaling enforcement through mail-in ticketing. The certainty of receiving a ticket for a violation would drive compliance, leading to better turnover and more efficient use of parking spaces. I might be a little biased because I live in a small village where parking is incredibly challenging, but I truly believe this approach could improve parking availability and overall efficiency in many areas.
Gotcha. Man, this has been great. And thank you for your time again, Ryan. I'll now open up the floor to questions. If anybody wants to learn more about Ryan's legacy or Orbility, that would be perfect at this time. Does the audience have any questions? Okay.
What is Orbility's largest installation in the United States? How many lanes? What's the complexity of the operation? Sort of curious. So I haven't I don't know much about Orbility personally.
Absolutely. So our biggest operation in the U.S. is the Philadelphia airport, where we've digitized 52 lanes with LPR in and LPR out.
Very nice.
Some of the complexities that we have are just around the hotel operation in nested zones, but it was just a bit of a learning curve for the system of how the actual airport functions and driving in and out of the zones, but all that has been figured out.
Fantastic. And when you mentioned citations, I think some of the challenges we see is that in a lot of cases they're not legally enforceable, and then you sort of start to create an adversarial relationship with the parkers. And how do you think that affects the operator or people who are actually sending out the citations?
Are you talking about if I had a magic wand?
Correct.
Yeah, I mean, I was honestly, parking is really hard in my village, so I'm just trying to find a parking spot, and I know that if we increase compliance, but other than that, I don't have a magic wand, and I don't see it being a necessarily quick adoption for, mail-in ticketing, but so I don't really have a full answer to your question.
Gotcha, thank you.
Absolutely.
Anyone else have any questions? All right.
Mine's a little bit more of a generic question. It's actually kind of following up after the gentleman who just answered a second ago. As someone who's new to the industry, like I've mentioned before, I'm here trying to gather knowledge, especially from all these professionals. You mentioned that getting a citation in a garage is not you're not legally bound by per se. So what enforcement takes place now, and then where's like a plan in the future to make sure the citations are paid or they're honored or anything along those lines? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. I would open that up to the room in the sense of compliance to the actual parking facilities. I think it's almost a case-by-case scenario of who the operator is, where the garage is based, what the property lines of it are, and the commercial asset itself. But if anyone wants to assist with answering that question, we would love for that feedback.
Yeah, so first of all, I think it's important to point out that although it is true that there are some states that you may or may not have the force of law, that's only 5 states. So there's 45 states where a privately issued citation has the ability to ruin somebody's credit rating and do any number of other things if it's not addressed properly. So the problem is that is part of what has happened, is that a number of the remote enforcement groups have very aggressive pricing at the end. Some are smart and they discount it, and there's other things lots of things go into this. But it's important, I think, to just understand that I know from experience that about 70% of the people who don't pay are choosing not to pay on purpose. They know it's a paid location, they know they're supposed to pay, but I'm only going to be here 2 minutes. That sort of thing. So, for the operators, part of as an industry, what we need to do is continually remind people that, hey, this is no different than a hotel room. This is no different than renting a car. This is no different than having a meal. That's one of the things I talk to people about regularly outside the parking industry. Is it's kind of like folks that smoke, and no disrespect to anybody that smokes, but smokers quite often that would never ever think of littering don't hesitate to throw a cigarette butt down. They might step on it to make sure that it's out. It doesn't make them a bad person. It just doesn't connect. The parking industry is just absolutely so misunderstood, and so anything that we can do to help promote the professionalism, I think, is important. The other thing I would say, whether it's a magic wand or not, the most important, the single biggest mistake that I see in my role is that we need to follow Oglesby rule number 1. All right, so this is no extra charge. Hey, you guys give me the microphone. So Oglesby, and I say this to every one of my consulting clients as they sign the contract to hire me. I'm going to make it as easy as I can for you to do exactly what I want you to do. Not what you want to do, what I want you to do. And the reason I put it that way is because you're hiring me because of my expertise. I ran the 2010 Olympics in Vancouver. I've opened 200 professional sports venues. I was CEO of a mobile payment company for 10 years. So, if you could do a good job representing to me what your challenges are, I can provide you guaranteed solutions. The number one mistake that I see in these instances that we're talking about is not about signage, and it's not about those 70% of people who choose not to pay, not paying. It's, have you done the best job, to go back to Oglesby rule number 1? Have you made it as easy as possible for them to pay? Not everybody has a credit card. Not everybody knows what Venmo is. Not everybody, on and on and on. And a lot of parking garages, part of the challenge is that Wi-Fi, unless it's a very young garage, Wi-Fi is almost impossible in the majority because of the sheer amount of concrete. There's boosters and repeaters and things that you can do, but you have to decide how important that is to you. So, you know, in closing, I would say, you know, number one, support everybody that has fines and violations with the proper signage, of course, to get people to pay, because like I said, to me, it's no different than a hotel room. Not that there aren't people that steal those too, I'm sure, you know, or, you know, that take a run at the after a good meal or something like that. But as an operator or as an owner, are you doing everything that you can to make it as easy as you can for people to pay? And then the same thing, if you are paying by mail, I like the options that which is what most municipalities are now using, where there's not much of a penalty if you pay it within X number of days, or the best way to do it, in my opinion, is to have a higher rate, let's say $50, but if you pay within 10 days, it's only $20. If your goal is to get $20 by pricing it in that manner, number one, you're not, you know, and there are lots of conversations going on now about equity and pricing and lots of other things that are also very valid and very important, not unlike accessibility we talked about earlier. But make it painful enough that it's worth them taking the time to pay that within never 10 days. And I think if you talk to some of the larger municipalities, that sort of philosophy can triple the amount of citations that are paid utilizing the remote manner. So you just got to price it accordingly. The punitive issue is really challenging, and a lot of those companies have come off of that because there's nothing. People who might not think anything about paying $20 for a $10 parking space that they didn't do will just stay game on if you send them a letter that says they owe $150, because it just doesn't seem right to most people. And you can argue whether or not, and I stay away from fair and unfair in most business communications. But so again, you know, if that was your mom, because we all are at different places on our technology journey. You know, if that was your mother that went there, would you want her to get that in the mail? A ticket for $150 when it was a $10 parking operation? And I'm not saying that it shouldn't be more than that, but things like that. And that's what's the 5 states so far, and there are 4 more that have legislation that's probably going to go through this session, that don't allow that, is because of that gouging. It's not because, in most instances, they have a problem with you charging $40 for a $20 ticket when you explain blah, 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 and you're not going to get everybody, so that's not a problem. But, you know, would you want to send your mom a ticket for $100? Would you want somebody to send your mom or your dad, if you don't like your mom, you know, a ticket for $150 and then wonder why they're going to go? I mean, if you look at each of the 5 states that don't allow this or don't share information with the private sector, et cetera, in 4 of those 5 states, all of that got started by a member of a legislative body, House or the Senate, that went somewhere and got a ticket. Every one of those. It's not their constituents that got mad. This person got mad because, and then you didn't deal with them the way that they thought that they should, and on and on and on. So just know that that's going to continue to battle. And so we can do ourselves a really big favor in making it as reasonable and fair as it can be, and to explain why. And again, great signage.
Thank you for that.
Would anybody else like to chime in or have any other questions?
I'll just pile on to that last point. I think legislatively it's a ticking time bomb in every single state. Every single state legislator is gonna get a ticket. They're gonna get towed, they're gonna get booted, they're gonna get a ticket, they're gonna fine, they're gonna get something. And the day it happens is the day it starts for that state, and it's only a matter of a year or 2 later. And nobody fights for parking, right? Nobody comes in and says, well, but they parked illegally. Like, that's bad. There's nobody who comes to our rescue, and we're in trouble. And I don't know what the solution is, but it's interesting. You can put a parking arm in, and you can charge $50 an hour, and that's okay. But you take out the parking arms, QR code in the honor system and you charge $10 an hour or $1 an hour, God forbid that you give anybody a ticket who doesn't pay it. It is this double-edged sword. We're not going to solve it, right? That's a societal issue, but it's the legislative piece in our industry. I think we've turned a blind eye to for a long time, and I think it's picking up a lot of steam, and I think it's a huge threat for us. Sort of off topic, but.
Any other questions at this time? Okay, well, I have a question myself. We're going to move into a debate topic that I have. It's looking more towards the future of like parking, and you think about the autonomous vehicles as well. I'm wondering how the people in the audience feel about this. Is the future of parking no parking garages because of self-driving cars? How does people feel about that?
Can you repeat the question?
Cars still need to go somewhere.
Yeah. Is the future of parking no parking garages because of self-driving cars? I heard in the back, the cars need to go somewhere. Would you like to chime in on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think about it like I am only required to go to the office one day a week. I drive. If I had to go into the office more, I'd probably take public transportation because I don't want to sit in traffic.
Mm-hmm.
If my car drove itself to and from my office and went and parked itself, I'd go in 5 days a week. I go work from my car when my car drove itself. But like that commute eats into my time with my family. So like, I don't want to do that. Truly, if my car drove itself, it would be driving me to work and going to park itself and then coming to pick me up.
Gotcha. No, that's an interesting thought. I like that.
So I think that kind of answers the question though, is the parking, I guess, industry, possibly being jeopardized too, because the cars still have to park at the end of the day, right? So I just think the operations would, change with the times as every industry does versus becoming obsolete.
Well, there would need to be a method for those autonomous cars to pay for their own parking.
Mm-hmm.
Plan mapping the facility so they know where to park, really clear signage, all that. Yeah, I mean, I think if anything, there's opportunities to grow businesses within the parking industry rather than getting rid of.
You'll
garages.
probably be able to fit more cars in a facility that way too, because you don't have to worry about people necessarily getting in and out of the cars. They're just simply like you see in those airport lots where you have all the cars smashed together in big lines.
Yeah.
It's going to probably be something similar to that, or maybe like some of the underground car garage elevators that they have all over Asia. You can see some of those, or I guess sort of similar to Carvana as well.
Gotcha. No, this is great. Any other takers on autonomous vehicles and parking? Okay.
Porsche and Mercedes-Benz will tell you that by the year 2030, which used to sound like a far time, Porsche and Mercedes-Benz, among others probably, but I mean, I've been in meetings where they'll tell you that by 2030, they believe 75% of all parking sessions will be paid for before the vehicle leaves its originating departure from. It's not an accident that Park Mobile and Pay by Phone for over a decade each were owned by large automobile manufacturers. It's also not an accident. Do you know which organization has more patents as it relates to parking than any other organization in the United States, any other company?
No, I don't.
Come on, you gotta guess. Who do you think it is?
Is it T2?
No. It's Apple.
Oh, okay.
You know who has the second most?
Microsoft?
Google.
Oh, okay.
The future is 8-car nav systems are going to pay for all of it. And autonomous vehicles are a cool idea 25 to 45 years from now. I think that will actually work as we get through liability and people being killed and things like that. But those vehicles, most of the models, the modeling that's done, like DARPA, for example, the really cool portion of the US government, one of the few places we haven't gone in and fired 20% of the people, will tell you that the model that works is absolutely, you're going to get in, Shelly's going to get in her car 5 days a week and drive in, and she's going to have a couple of her friends there so they can eat and drink, non-alcoholic beverages, I'm sure on the way to and from work, etc. And then instead of her car going and parking, she's going to have set it up to where it then goes and starts picking up other people that have different, and that's where the last mile works. That's where some of all these wonderful ideas start working, as long as you're comfortable with somebody else being in your car. If you go to Europe now, in many, many instances, almost nobody is buying a car for 5 years. They're buying a membership. Porsche engineered this the first time almost 7 years ago. And it's available in several states in the US, it just hasn't taken off yet. Where, just like leasing a car, right? Everybody understands the way a lease works. If you buy a car, you got payments. If you pay them all, you own it at the end. With a lease, at the end of your lease, you hand it over. Well, imagine a situation, because these exist now, where, let's say Porsche, and you've got a family that you have, and 4 days a week, you've got the equivalent of an SUV. But on that 5th day, maybe Shelley's day that she's currently going in, you don't have the family. They can actually swap that car out, and Porsche will deliver to them a 911 or whatever type vehicle it is they want to do. There's a premium for that. It's all covered under your insurance. These are things that are happening right now. So, and I think that you're not going to see parking garages go away for a long time, because how else are you going to efficiently store those vehicles somewhere? New York City did their little congestion tax or whatever they called it, which I thought was a great idea. It's worked very, very well in London and a number of other places. But what it actually saw is there was actually more traffic on the street because of Uber licenses and Lyft licenses jumped something like 40% as people saw that as an opportunity. And also the way the city of New York set it up initially, I'm sure politics had nothing to do with this. It was not uniformly enforced, and it was only in certain areas. So if you were willing to come from some of the less traveled inbound areas, there was no congestion tax whatsoever, which is now basically shelved.
I have a follow-up question under the general theme of automation. Do we think that with the rise of automated vehicles, that there will be kind of like a linear correlation between the demand of LPR, kind of just another subsector of automation? Is that something anyone would predict?
Certainly.
So it's kind of like to their point earlier, where instead of shutting down parking, it would expand into like another market
And
segment.
it'll go beyond LPR, go into car ID, where you're actually seeing a car for all its flaws, bumper stickers, and being able to identify the car based on that, rather than having to rely on recognizing specific text, which could actually lead to even better accuracy over time.
How far along are they with the development
Close.
of the car ID? Really?
That's real close.
Wow.
There's 2 or 3 folks that will tell you that they have that technology already, and I've met with a vendor in New York, and it was impressive that he could read. I mean, we actually went with them, took license plates off, shot it, got the camera, then ran it through without a license plate, and it was almost 85% as efficient without the license plate. Because of the pitch and the width, the diameter, and the location, and the curvature of the rear-facing lights and those sorts of things. So I don't think there's any doubt about that. And it's also for the 2028 Olympics in Los Angeles, they will have perfected the ability to won't even require credentials at all for parking. When you go down to an event, based upon what traffic is doing, it will actually reroute you to wherever. And Major League Baseball and National Football League are also working on this to have that ability to do that as well. So this is stuff that can be done today. The only question is how quick is it mainstream, and again, how quickly can things get done before privacy, which is the core reason that so many great technologies in Europe, or I just helped a company a year ago bring some stuff over from New Zealand, because because of the privacy concerns. That's the 5 states, soon to be 7 states that we're talking about earlier. Watch New Hampshire. First to fight and first in freedom. As far as the state, they're the most proud of their independence, and that is the testing grounds. If you can get an installation in New Hampshire, California's a piece of cake. And how often can you say it's easy to do business in California?
I have one more topic that I know will be controversial, but
Compared to these other topics, which we've all been in agreement.
will AI take over parking enforcement? And when I say AI, I also want to include robots. That's becoming more prominent as well. So, how do people feel about AI? And you can also talk about if AI is being incorporated now, maybe in, ChatGPT or other AI tools are being leveraged in parking enforcement. But my question is, do you believe it will take over? Or do you still think we need the human interaction?
Define takeover.
Yeah, so when you go to let's say you go to a fast food place and they just have the automatic kiosk, they don't even have like the personal feel of, oh, okay, hey, may I take your order? Do you think it's just going to be like, we already see kind of like the gateless technology? Do you think that, robots will come in and handle the enforcement? Do you think we can look for insights on maybe a mobile application, just taking a look into like, oh, what is the parking availability for today for this spot here in downtown Chicago? Without maybe doing the research or legwork ourselves, will they just spit out available options to us? And then thinking about that autonomous feel as well, are we going to be navigated straight to our destination, never having to talk to any human? Or do you still think we need a human in the
That all
mix?
pretty much exists already.
Yeah.
Okay, tell me about it.
Yeah, it's expensive to run
Okay.
AI, yeah. But
So it's a matter of when will it be implemented? Who's gonna do it? Who's gonna spend the money to put cameras on every poles to monitor all the meters, parking meters? Because municipalities, of course, they can ticket easily. So you could replace all your people walking the streets and writing down license plates very easily.
Wow.
But again, you're gonna spend the money on the data and the power and the storage of all the LPR data, and again, privacy concerns too in general, just people parking, so.
yeah, Mojo and PRS have really sophisticated cameras to even count the number of people in the car. It's not what they're using it for, like PRS doesn't use it for that, but they could if they wanted to, and then you could designate, like if California wanted to, they could designate parking spaces for carpool vehicles and then identify how many people are in the vehicle.
And parking guidance companies like Indect and Park Assist, for example, have their parking guidance camera-based counters that they use, not just inside garages, but on open lots where they're pole mounted, so those can be used for those purposes as well, potentially. Again, very expensive to do.
They're
I,
smart systems already.
I think it's gonna help a lot. I don't think it's gonna get rid of enforcement officers and true enforcement. There's a certain group, maybe it's at 70%, who car's probably not registered, doesn't have a driver's license, doesn't have insurance. It's not even their car, it's their auntie's car that he borrowed without telling, or his girlfriend's car. And, it's those continuous scofflaws that you have a problem with. I worry about AI and that, like, oh, we can generate, like, this part of town, we're probably gonna need an enforcement officer because they don't pay tickets. Well, now all of a sudden you're profiling and you go down a really bad trap of that. So I think when we talk about AI and technology, we talk about it in sort of this perfect clean room, but the problem is our problem people are not in the clean room, right? They're you know who they are. You're like it's all of our, we all have a family member, right? It's all that black sheep family member that you go to your family reunion, you're like, oh, there's Uncle Bob, don't go near him. That's the guy, right? And we're always gonna have Uncle Bobs. I think AI is gonna help a lot, and I think we'll be able to do more targeted enforcement, but I worry that AI is gonna learn pretty quick. You gotta target this area, and that's gonna be problematic too, from a social and political standpoint. So I probably am I'm not anti-AI. I think it's cool, but I'm not on the it's gonna solve life's problems. I wish it would. As somebody has enforcement people, it's a challenge.
Yeah, it's a tool, not an overlord. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yet.
No, that is great. I really appreciate all of your insights. I have to wrap it up, unfortunately. I would love to just keep talking for hours with you all. But I wanted to just wrap up and say, imagine a world where we never have to circle the block for parking. That's the future that we're working towards. So let's keep the conversation going. At the end of the day, we all just want the same thing, to park without stress. Whether you're a commuter, an enforcer, or somewhere in between, the goal is to make parking smarter, easier, and dare I say fun? Until next time, this is Putting in Park Podcast with Robert Wilson. Stay safe and may your parking always be stress-free and abundant. Thank you.